our being. We knew that this is where we were supposed to be. We knew this was going to be a collaboration that turned earth into heaven and allowed us to have the opportunity to bring heaven into a lot of people's lives. Because I'd say that state of centeredness and groundedness and present-minded balance that our oil's been able to provide for folks is a state of what a lot of us would describe as paradise. Can we get another amen? One of the things I've learned from Dr. Shade that's been profound in my own journey of wellness is him talking about what can happen in the body when you take the bad stuff out and you put good stuff in. And in my mind, that equates to momentum. So many of us are working so hard just to get to the starting line because our body's fighting against all of these toxins that are inside of it. And one of the things that was an aha moment for me is what it might look like if we allowed our body to start fighting for itself instead of against itself. And that may seem simple, but I can promise you, when that settles with you, it will change your life, and you will be motivated to pursue wellness and begin believing at some point in your life something that you let go of what this world can look like when you look in the mirror and know you're truly functioning at your highest potential and operating at that tallest expression of what it feels like to be you. And it's been so awesome to get to learn and tap into the mind, the spirit, and the man that is now not just a business partner, but a friend, not just to me, but many of you. And I'll say it again, it's a real pleasure to be able to introduce him today. We're in for a treat. Open up your brain, your heart. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Ladies and gentlemen, try my body. An outstanding round of applause.
Stopped everybody immediately. How's everybody doing today? Oh, this is exciting. Look how many people are here. Oh, how we grow. Hello, hello, hello. All right, all right, all right. I'm just going to pace around up here for a little while while I figure out what I'm going to say to y'all. We got to come out of the excitement because I wanted to follow what Aaron was doing. Who liked what Aaron was saying? And, you know, she and I had a discussion about this just yesterday, maybe it was the day before. And it's a big thing for me. Being. When you act out of a space where you're relaxed and deep down into your being, and you just stay there until your action just comes out and unfolds. Like when you're learning breath work to be in the parasympathetic state. You'll exhale deeply and you'll just sit there. You won't hold, you'll just sit there, and then your body just brings it in. And after you do that a couple of times, your heart starts to regulate your breath. When you're taught yoga, you're taught to use your breath to try to calm everything down. But real being allows your heart to come in and take over and run the rhythms of your body. And how do you think that affects your body? You think that brings you into a healing space? When your heart runs that is when you come to the center. All the traditions, Taoism, Hinduism, the Buddhist traditions, all trying to get you to a center where it expands naturally out of your heart. Not where you're forcing. When we're forcing out of fear. We're forcing out of a place of worry that we're not in the right place, that we're not doing the right thing. That's a place of stress. That's a place of the sympathetic tone of fight or flight. How do you think that tone sets up for health in your body? Does fight or flight create healing? Fight or flight creates energy for you to fight or fly. The opposite of that is the parasympathetic tone. Rest, digest, repair, regenerate, detoxify. And being in the parasympathetic gives way to more healing, more authenticity, more love. It's an upward spiral. Being in sympathetic, in the stress mode, it's good for doing something and getting something done, but it's shifting you towards holding on to toxins, holding on to toxic feelings. It's taking blood away from your organs. It's taking energy away from proper growth and proper repair. It's burning you up. It is literally killing you. And it is ruining the space for your relationships with the people around you. So that's a profound decision of where you want to align your being. The profound aspect of this hemp oil is that it quickly, powerfully resets that dynamic and gives you a space to choose from. Gives you a space to be from, where you can taste that and you can see the cascade into your life of this effect. There was a girl who came to work for me recently, and once she got comfortable being around me long enough, it wasn't like, Jesus Christ, what the hell is this? I don't know what to do with this. Finally, her health comes up. And she's like, well, I got stomach problems. I'm like, you got stomach problems? She goes, I think I'm stressed all the time. And I'm like, well, you don't show it. You're not walking around looking that way. And I'm like, oh, you just crank it into the center. She goes, yeah, I just stuff it down in there. And I'm like, yeah, that's not good. This is a very bad thing. And so I'm like, have you tried the hemp oil? She's like, no, I don't know, no, what is that stuff? And I'm like, and you work for me, right? All right, no problem. Try it. And she starts trying it, and then she's doing it twice a day, then 3 times a day. And, I ask her again in a week. She goes, I said, how are you doing? Are you stressing all day? And she goes, no. I'm like, great. And I see her in another week. I say, how you doing? Are you stressing all day? She goes, this is great. I love this. And I love this company. I'm like, pretty easy, isn't it? It gives you that space to feel an open center where you're not working like mad because you're afraid. You're not working like mad to prove something to somebody because you're afraid of what they think. You're working out of your center, and you're working because you love what you do. And when you're helping people all the time, you gotta love it. And honestly, how many multi-level companies give you that chance? Everything you're doing for somebody is profoundly helping. And so now we'll go into the squarer aspects of my talk. And tomorrow we're going to talk about detoxification. Are we psyched that we have a detox system now? And I hate to have favorite children, but this is my newest child, and it's my most perfect one. Don't tell my other children. It is a profound set of products that you can set a neural tone and then open up the biochemistry to drain all its junk. And setting your neurological tone is going to help drain all of your neurological, emotional junk. And we got plenty of junk. Plenty to drain, plenty to go around. And you're going to love doing it because you're going to love the clear, open vistas that will come your way. And during the course of this talk, I want you to think at the same time about detoxification because they're so intertwined. In that sympathetic fight or flight space, you're prioritizing the use of energy. Your cells make energy, and they don't make enough energy to do everything they might like to do. And so they prioritize, and they get clues from your autonomic nervous system. And when it says fight or flight, they don't detox. When you're in a war, you don't clean the house. And in fact, detox proteins used to be called house cleaning proteins. Isn't that cool? Very easy way to approach this. We're going to turn up our house cleaning proteins. But you can't do that when you're jacked into this space of fear and anxiety. And ironically, the toxins that build up go to your brain and they augment those feelings of fear and anxiety, which further locks down your detoxification. So there's a downward spiral there. And when we focus on the liver and the ability of the liver to drain, to let go and drain through the gallbladder, we're going to see that the gallbladder's nervous system control is related right up to that parasympathetic-sympathetic dynamic. The gallbladder itself is a parasympathetically innervated organ. Hence, parasympathetic, rest, digest. When you're calm, your digestive fluids flow, including the bile. And they then make you hungry, so you can digest and assimilate. But coming with the bile are the toxins. They come together. They're transported together. They flow together, inextricably bound together. And when you're stuck in that fear and anxiety and stress place, you lock that door out of the liver. We can take bitters and things to help our bile flow, but if we can't free our minds, we can't make it happen. So these things are intertwined. And when we talk about the endocannabinoid system, the system that's being lubricated and made strong and flexible by the hemp oil, we're going to talk about other plants that interact with it. And we're going to think then about all the different phytochemicals that are interacting with the endocannabinoid system. And there's a lot of them. And a lot of the ones that are the best at interacting with it are also great for detoxification and are in the detox system. So while the hemp is setting the tone for the detox is living in that tone. And it's augmenting it, and it's acting in the same networks and building resilience to them. It's working down to the level of the mitochondria to create more energy, to do more things in your cells. There's so much that can be done when you link together all the right plant chemistry. This web in the body is activated, and it gives you resilience, clarity, strength. And of course, remember the term we love about hemp. When we're working with the endocannabinoid system, we're creating neuroendoimmune poise. Poise! It's balance. I'm losing my poise. Poise is balance, neurochemistry, the balance of the excitatory and inhibitory neurotransmitters, things that make you go and things that calm you down. Poise is balance, ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it, then calm down back into your center. Go into your beingness, open up, do again, come back, calm down. The poise is being able to shift those sides. But you must know that mentally inside. You must work with that, consciously work with that. The endo is your hormone poise, hormone balance. And it's, as research comes out of the endocannabinoid system, we see it being crucial to so many different things. We found the organ with the greatest number of cannabinoid receptors is the uterus. Give it up for the uterus. Thank you all, those uterus bearers. I'm wondering in me what the organ is with the greatest amount of cannabinoid receptors. It must be a correlate. I'll look for that research. But what does the endocannabinoid system have to do with the uterus? It interacts with estrogen and progesterone to prepare, mostly estrogen, to prepare the lining of the uterus for implantation. Is that important to the survival of the human race? No implantation, no people. And then, of course, the immune system, neuroendoimmune. The cannabinoid system is a balancing system for inflammatory processes. And again, when to go, when to calm down, when to inflame, when to anti-inflame. The endocannabinoid system is helping set that tone. When something causes inflammation, how to cause inflammation in a balanced way and where to set boundaries around it. You know, it's like discipline with your children. There's a little bit of wrath and a boundary to the wrath. It's like discipline with my employees. There's a little bit of wrath and a little bit of boundary to the wrath. You wouldn't think I was wrathful, but I am. All right, I guess we should look at a slide. Now, let's not do that. So when we talk about all this stuff, when we talk about CBD, think about detox. When we talk about detox, think about CBD. They are really impossible to take apart. We're setting a tone for our being. And that is the most beautiful part of hemp. That's me. I'm qualified to be here, that's all that says. But the endocannabinoid system, is it qualified for our attention? When did this thing arise? 600 million years ago. Oh, is this JT's pointer or it doesn't work? It's weak. Love you, brother. Endocannabinoid system showed up 600 million years ago as we evolved past the insect towards the sea squirt. Was the sea squirt the first one to have an endocannabinoid system? I don't know, but I have a lot of respect for the sea squirt now. And it is, oh, here comes a woman with some power. Oh, maybe it's this, oh, there we go. All right, insects, sea squirt, yay. All right, anywhere, thank you. So it's been a part of our evolution for hundreds of millions of years where it's played this massive role. This role at creating poise in our body, enabling us to go out on a limb and come back and have the tone to do that. And the receptor system, the two main parts of it are the CB1 and the CB2 receptors. And the endocannabinoid receptors together are the largest set of receptors in the whole body. More than anything else, more than our hormone receptors or neurotransmitter receptors, there's cannabinoid receptors. This is a fundamental part of our biochemistry. And the CB1 and the CB2 are slightly different. You can't really see well with these things on the screen, so I won't even bother. CB1 is mostly in the central nervous system, and CB2 is mostly in the periphery, though CB2 is in the brain too. And CB2 plays a role in quenching, in the brain, in quenching neuroinflammation, which we'll talk about later. CB1, now you can think about these according to our main phytocannabinoids. So I said endocannabinoid without even mentioning it, like everybody must know, and if you're here you must have at least an idea. Endo is inner. Cannabinoid is a class of chemicals which interact with the cannabinoid receptors. So, 20 years ago, I thought that cannabinoids were just out of the cannabis plant. But no, you make them internally. They look a little bit different than the phytocannabinoids. Phyto is plant. So the phytocannabinoids we know the most are THC and CBD. And when applied to the CB1 and CB2, CB1 is primarily in the central nervous system. And if you take THC in the absence of CBD, it will go primarily to the central nervous system and have that strong psychotropic effect that we call getting high. Some fans of that. We are in Colorado. We don't have to hide it anymore now, do we? Let's give it up for progressive. But when it comes to health and modulating health, the real winner is CBD. And when THC and CBD are together, there's suddenly a reprioritization of the activities of THC, where THC's effect starts being driven towards CB2 receptors. Now, CB2 receptors are in the periphery, they're in all the different organs, but they're very strongly concentrated in immune cells. And so their function tends to be very strongly around inflammation control. So when THC and CBD are together, then THC starts working in the immune systems towards inflammatory control and a number of other homeostatic mechanisms, sort of cell balancing mechanisms. And that, at that point, is where THC starts becoming therapeutic. But it's still got this psychoactive aspect. So CBD alone is most focused on the CB2 receptors and activity around them. And when we talk about the depth of CBD's effect, We're going to see a lot of it is neurological. There's a lot that's inflammation balancing or inflammatory poise. And that a lot of it is acting at a genetic level not to change your genes, but to create a focus for how you express your genes. In the nucleus, there's all these genes. Thousands, millions, they're all in there. It's all this information. It's all these different possibilities. Infinite possibilities that you could do, but you're only going to reduce those down to one reality. Because you can't do them all at the same time. You don't have the energy to, nor would you want to do them all at the same time. So you prioritize. Going back to our fight or flight, we prioritize energy into skeletal movement. And we deprioritize maintenance and repair. CBD is able to prioritize inner maintenance and repair. In the context of the detoxification system, we're going to talk a lot about bringing up the chemoprotective genes. And that is a big thing that CBD does. At the same time, it's turning down pro-inflammatory genes. And you might wonder, why would you have pro-inflammatory genes? Inflammation is sometimes necessary, especially in the case of infection. And in a very serious infection, you turn up massive inflammation. Inflammation and detoxification are opposites. And we'll talk about that a lot tomorrow, but the basis is inflammation is associated with pro-oxidant activity, which can be positive in some aspects, and you use it to kill invaders, but it has collateral damage upon the body. Inflammation is a fire. When a fire is controlled and utilized for good, it's a good thing. When it gets out of hand and creates collateral damage, it's a bad thing. But when you're under a strong infectious threat, you need a powerful inflammatory response to kill that. But there are many things that create an uncontrolled inflammatory response. Often I'll talk about endotoxin. And when we talk about neuroinflammation, we'll talk about endotoxin. They're little parts of bacteria that are getting into circulation from infections. Or they're getting into circulation from leaky gut. Permeability, high permeability in the upper GI tract. That's usually created by overgrowth of organisms in the upper GI tract that are not supposed to be there. They'll call that SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And this relates back to our story, because bile flow is what's supposed to be washing those creatures out of the upper intestine. And bile flow is bringing glutathione to heal and soothe the small intestine. And remember, when we're stressed and locked up, we stop the bile flow. That stops the healing of the upper GI, and it stops the movement of the toxins. And then when we open back up into our rest, all that starts again. But when we're chronically stressed, we're chronically growing stuff in our upper GI, we're inflaming our upper GI, little parts of bacteria are getting into the system, our body is recognizing them as an infection and sending a strong inflammatory alarm that has massive collateral damage throughout your body. Being able to control that so it doesn't pour gasoline onto the fire is a crucial thing, and it's one of the greatest elements of hemp-derived CBD, as it creates this net of balance and control. And when we look into the brain, It's controlling those reactions in the brain, and it's controlling that reaction from locking up the whole body. Now, there's other reactors that are starting to come around, like the trips, which are big in pain control. These were first known, people used to take capsaicin, hot pepper gel for pain, because it acted on trip receptors, which were good at shutting pain receptors. Now, there's an interesting Buddhist aspect of pain. The 4 precepts of the Buddha, life is suffering. Well, pain receptors are naturally open. And it is your body's autonomic nervous system control that shuts them down. So when you're in control and balance, you shut down pain. And when that gets out of hand, the pain receptors go open and you feel chronic pain. You need autonomic nervous system balance and a balance between GABA and glutamate in the brain to shut down this errant pain signal. And CBD works on both of those. And it works through these trip receptors, and it works in the brain to create that balance, and it's calming inflammation, which is why it's so well known for pain control. So what are the endocannabinoids, and why were they there, and why were they lifted and taken somewhere from the far end of town with, oh, sorry, that was Lorax. I have memorized the whole Lorax, and one day I'll come up and do it. Who are the endocannabinoids? Anandamide and 2-arachidonoglycerol. So anandamide, Ananda is Sanskrit for bliss. And this was discovered by an obviously pretty hip dude named Raphael Mechoulam, the grandfather of all things cannabinoid. Yeah. Give it up for Raphael Mechoulam! How do I know he's hip? Because nobody names something anandamide unless they're pretty hip. Maybe he was into meditation, some pranayama, some yoga. He knew Ananda. And they now find that that's part of runner's high, but it's definitely a part of bliss during meditation. So you can call this anandamide or you can call it blissamide. And it's also in chocolate, which answers some questions. Doesn't it now? Your mother is the first one who ever got you high. If all things went well. Since we have blissamide, nobody wants to call something 2-arachidonoglycerol. They don't even want to call it 2-AG. Let's call it BMide. So we got blissamide and we got BMide. And BMide was given to you by your mother in her breast milk on moment 1. We can thank our mothers for that. And it was originally thought of as a neurotransmitter, then a neuromodulator. It's a huge part of the balance, again, of the nervous system. All right, so these are working for us. How does CBD interact into this system? So, first let's talk back about the major phytocannabinoids. Because this becomes a question that's brought out there. People will say CBD doesn't work till it's activated by THC. Now, there's a reason for saying that, and a reason that you don't need it. So you've got those 2 receptors, CB1, CB2. Remember I said THC without CBD goes right to the central nervous system and gets you high. THC with CBD gets you less high and more wellness because it's working throughout the whole body's cannabinoid receptor system. THC is an excellent agonist for these receptors, meaning think of them as buttons, it pushes the button. But that's all it does. It doesn't set tone. It doesn't set neurological tone, it doesn't set biochemical tone, it's not affecting gene transcription, it's just a button pusher. CBD, on the other hand, is non-psychoactive, though you will feel its effect, and when you take it and you're like, ah. And all that I said about it being able to balance the sides of your autonomics and bring you into balance are dominantly through its effect on building your own endocannabinoids. Well, it's that on one side, and on the other side, it's on stabilizing neurotransmitters. So the go and chill out signals in your head are dominated by a neurotransmitter called glutamate, which is the go. And the glutamate receptors put you into a sympathetic tone, which makes you on it. It's responsible for memory. And that's all okay, but has to let go and give way to GABA tone. GABA is your Zen neurotransmitter. It's the one chilling things out, putting you in rest and digest. So CBD is balancing them, stopping any of the glutamate processes from winding up, calming inflammation, and cooling your endocannabinoids. While in the cell, it's bringing up those chemoprotective genes and turning down pro-inflammatory genes. When we talk about neuroinflammation, you'll see that's all the things you need to calm an inflamed brain. So it's a strong gene modulator, but it's weak at pressing the button. It doesn't press the button itself, but it sets the button up. And it sets the CB2 up. It accentuates it, potentiates it, without activating. What activates it? Anandamide to arachidonoglyceride. So our blissamide and our biamide, you're going to build more of those when you have CBD. So this is a picture of a neuron, and over on the left there's formation of 2-AG. CBD stimulates formation of more 2-AG. But in all neurotransmitters, there's formation and destruction. Formation and destruction. This is, the world at work here. The cycles of being extended down to our neurotransmitters. And what CBD does for anandamide is block destruction of anandamide. Not completely, but slows it down. So you pool up in the synapses more 2-AG and more anandamide. While CBD is enhancing the CB2 receptors, building the endocannabinoids to act as the agonist and strike those buttons. That's how CBD can work in the absence of THC. But remember, I told you to start thinking about the world of phytochemicals, the world of plant chemicals that can interact and work in this system as well. And it turns out there are other phytochemicals which are strong agonists, strong button pushers for the CB receptors. So how strong something is at button pushing can be gauged by the numbers. It's an engagement number, the least amount of concentration to get 50% activation of the receptor. So in this scale, a lower number is better. And up there's numbers with NMs, which are nanomolar, and UMs, which are micromolar. A UM is 1,000 nanomolar. So a low number with an NM is the strongest button pusher. And the strongest button pusher is the third one down, THC. Well, it's nice of it. And in the right context, it can be used well. But just pure THC, there are very, very few maladies that THC alone is a medicinal for. But when CBD is setting the tone, then there are many more which are relevant. But there are other things we can use beyond THC. So at the top, you'll see numbers for anandamide and 2-AG, and these range from 78 to 370 for anandamide, depending on the receptor, and from 58 to 145 for 2-AG. So that's what your endocannabinoid strengths are. So is there a plant compound we can use that has those kind of affinities? And the fourth one down there is beta-caryophyllene, a terpene or essential oil derived from clove and black pepper. It's in a lot of different things. It's in the citrus oils, but it's in stronger concentrations in other oils. And we can use high concentrations of that in our hemp oil nanoparticles and have that act as a button pusher in the sphere of causality that CBD is created. And that is what we use. We use a lot of beta-caryophyllene. In case you're wondering, it kind of tastes peppery but not hot. There's a lot of beta-caryophyllene. And we use that along with the CBD. You look at the CBD numbers above it, and they're UMs. They're not high, but they set the tone. And then there's other things. Diindolyl methane down there is a phytocannabinoid. And I'll show a couple of papers. There's a guy in Germany who's brilliant thinking about this problem. And he calls them phytocannabomimetics. And he said a lot of compounds seem to be interacting with it. Not at super high levels, but the more of them that you have, the more of the different plant metabolites you have, the more it fills in and is striking those receptors or activating those receptors as this synergistic web. So the more of these plant compounds we pull in, and there are a lot in LiverClear, the broader we extend this effect. There's an interesting one in there. Alkyl amides are from echinacea. And that's part of why echinacea works on your immune system. And the last two are polyphenols. The last one, EGCG, is in green tea extract. So it's working with our endocannabinoid system, and it's also a strong upregulator of the chemoprotective system. So when you look at these two things together, the hemp and the detox system, it's a big, beautiful, intricate web that you're activating together. And after years and years of studying it, you finally have it all dialed down into a clean, super effective system. Just a couple of ideas that are out there in the research world, looking at endocannabinoids. Here they're looking at anandamide reversing depressive-like behavior and neurochemical abnormalities and oxidative stress parameters in this mice model where they poison the mice and destroy their ability to make insulin, so they create diabetic mice. The diabetic mice are very inflamed, very inflammatory. One of my good friends is Kelly Brogan. She's a radical psychiatrist in New York State, or in New York City. She used to be a drug pusher as she was trained to be, good little girl. And she totally went away from all that. And she gets women off of all their antidepressants by lowering inflammation in their body. Take out inflammatory foods, change lifestyle. She has them on Kundalini yoga, specialized diets, and flower essences. She didn't even use supplements till she met me. And now she uses bitters and CBD and everything you're going to use. How does that work on depression? Because chronic inflammation is creating neuroinflammatory states that are disrupting your natural being, the natural symphony of neurotransmitters that is your right to be present and blissful. And when you're taken away from that, it's freaking depressing. So that's how that all works. Endocannabinoid system expression in female reproductive tract is modulated by estrogen. That's the estrogen cannabinoid receptor dance for implantation. Cannabimimetic phytochemicals in the diet, an evolutionary link to food selection and metabolic stress adaptation. This guy, Jörg Gertsch, in Germany, sits around thinking about how all this stuff works. And I love him for that. He was the one who set all these different secondary plant metabolites. And he talks in there specifically about going to the new starchy plant diet, where wheat is our only thing. And then, maybe that's got gluten. Now I'm going to have some other starchy grain. And when starch dominates, the phytochemicals are low. So getting lots of plants in the diet is creating a balance between all the systems. And he's using the cannabinoid system, the endocannabinoid system, as the central balancing system. This guy is a great thinker. And this was secondary to that, the metabolic plant feedback hypothesis. And when you get really deep into diet and things with high fat, low carb, even low protein, people talk about autophagy. These are plant chemicals that set up remodeling of your cells, rebuilding, tearing down and rebuilding the cells to a higher level. A lot of these plant compounds are doing that. And a number of them in the liver clear do that. Quercetin, luteolin. These work to remodel cells into a more efficient model, build strong mitochondria that have the energy to work on multiple levels at once. Like a mind that can hold multiple models of reality and what it wants to do, and it can pick from those models as things in their environment change. That's a healthy cell. It's got the energy to do this. It can run multiple different metabolic pathways at once. It can be ketogenic and sugar burning at the same time. That's the kind of purity of cell that we want to get to. And when we clear away the things that take us away, the distortions of our biochemistry and the distortions of our mind, we can manifest into this clean, burning, running, thinking, being, loving machine. Who wants to be that? How much time we got? 12 minutes. Let's talk about neuroinflammation. this is key. If we can get this across in a way that you can understand it, and that's very hard for me to do at times. Oh, NRF2 upregulation, leading stabilization of glutamate receptors, because you don't want that microglial glutamate, downward spiral going on. All right, so we're going to try to simplify this. So neuroinflammation is a thing that happens in the brain that's very disruptive to the central nervous system, to cognition, and to your whole autonomic balance. And in neuroinflammation, there's an activation of that inflammatory fire of the immune system within the brain. Now, the immune system that has that fire I talked about, having controlled fire, is not something that normally is going on in the brain. But certain things go in and activate that kind of behavior in the immune cells in the brain. The immune cells in the brain, called microglia, are normally pretty chill. And then something winds them up, and they start spewing out all these pro-inflammatory chemicals. And the pro-inflammatory chemicals attack the neurons and damage the neurons, and they wind them up. They wind up the glutamate receptors, which winds you into that sympathetic. And the glutamate receptors get pissed off about this, and they throw things back at the glia. And then the microglia get pissed at that, and they throw things back. So, MSNBC, Fox. They did it, they did it, they did it, they did it. You're all a mess. Come to me, I'll work on you all. So when this happens, you see, it's hard to get any sleep at night. It's hard to be around people at the dinner table because they're just yelling all the time about this stuff, and you need to chill it all back out. And it can be instigated from either the immune side or the neuron side, where you throw toxins at the neurons and they start getting agitated. And so on the immune side at the top, LPS is one of the primary things. That's the endotoxin, the little parts of bacteria that come from leaky gut. They go up into the brain and they create this terrible dynamic. And tomorrow we're going to see they go into the liver and they block that movement out of the liver, the movement of the bile with the toxins into the GI tract. So endotoxin blocks both of those. And yet at the same time, it's creating a sympathetic dominance in the brain, which is further blocking everything. So we need something that can calm that. And then on the neuron side, you'll see what are the dominant things that can poison the neurons and start this. You have mercury, mold toxins, glyphosate, Roundup that's in food now. Those are called glutamate excitotoxins. Most people have heard of like MSG. That was an excitotoxin. It creates this scenario. So we need to be able to detoxify, and we need to be able to stabilize the brain system. And that is what CBD does. And I could show you paper after paper where CBD blocks the instigation of neuroinflammation and brings the system back down. And what are the symptoms when that winds up? When you wind up the glutamate receptors, the biggest symptom is anxiety. Remember in the beginning, anxiety, fear, working from there is not working from your center. How many people are effective at getting things done accurately when they're anxious? You may flutter around and look busy, but your execution sucks. And you're hating it. That dampening of that response is one of the greatest things that hemp does for us, to bring us down into that center. And that's mechanistically where that happens. And in all those models where they showed CBD doing it, they had no THC. CBD alone was able to affect this change. All right. The product, that's right. We're here for a product thing. I just used, 54 minutes on my wind-up to the product part. Put it in your mouth, it works really quick. That's my product talk. And it feels good. Why does it work quick? We know why it feels good, because endocannabinoids feel good. CBD feels good. Why does it work quick and why does it work so effectively? It's the delivery. Whether you call them nanoliposomes or more accurately, in this case, nanoemulsions, when you make tiny droplets of oil that have CBD in the droplet of oil. You don't change the molecule of CBD. You don't break the molecule to a nano size. The molecule is already a femto size, which is smaller. You're breaking down droplets of the oil that are holding the molecule, and you're wrapping them in a membrane, a skin of phospholipids and other surfactants and oils, and dispersing them into a watery matrix. Those little nano-sized droplets penetrate right through mucous membranes in the mouth, in the upper GI tract, and they get into the capillaries right below those membranes and quickly enter the body. How quickly? Like seconds to minutes. In this study that was done on nanoliposomes of B12, the first data point, we already had a big shift in this person's blood levels, was in 2 minutes. The little dots on the left, there's the 0 point, then 2, 6, 10, 20, then 50 minutes. Straight up like that. Fast. I'm going to skip through some of these. But fast and a total amount in is much higher. The immediacy, the fast immediacy is crucial to how deeply this penetrates. Because when we talk about activating receptors, when we talk about activating genes, those happen during peak levels in the blood, not low and slow stuff. So when this sweeps through into the body, it rings the bell by getting fast, high levels. And bringing these in, the membrane, the skin around these droplets, it's made of a therapeutic of its own, phosphatidylcholine. Phosphatidylcholine is what your cell membranes are made up of. And the membranous organelles like the mitochondria and endoplasmic reticulum that are in the cells, that's what all those diagrams are there. Cell membrane, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, all made of phospholipids that set up these bilayer membranes that create a charge separation, a differential of charge that drives enzymatic activity. And the health of these cells can be measured by the health of the membranes. When people ask me, why is ours better? A lot of it comes down to ingredients. You will see products come on the market that get down to a nano size. But what do they use to do it? I was just in Germany where we buy the phosphatidylcholine, and I wondered, I thought that this was injectable grade, but I hadn't been to the plant. Natterman, they make injectable grade phosphatidylcholine. They make all of the phospholipids for the pharmaceutical industry. This is not lecithin for baking. These are injectable grade pharmaceuticals. I went in, I saw what they make. These are the same ones that go to the pharma companies that make injectables. They do make injectable liposomes, injectable nanoemulsions in pharmaceuticals, and they need the highest grade available. That's what we're using. There are other companies on the market, and I know this because I know the players. I know where they source things. We all get from the same places. The people who sell this stuff love me because I buy incredibly expensive stuff. And they don't really like the other people so much because they buy the cheap baking stuff. And they try to pretend that this is all the same thing. It is not. And I'll show you a picture when they use the baker's list and how it turns out versus using injectable grades. But first, just a word on nano. Nano, people worry about nano. And they should for some things. Nanoparticles like titanium dioxide particles can get into the body and they can get lodged in the body, and the body does not have great mechanisms for getting them out. And they're free radical generators, and that's a problem. But lipid nanoparticles, especially ones that are phospholipid based, are natural to the body. In fact, the way you take dietary fats out to the cells to use those fats in metabolism for energy is by wrapping them in a sphere of phosphatidylcholine. It's called a chylomicron. And those chylomicrons range from 200 nanometers down to 70 nanometers. The term nanoparticle or nanotechnology is a line in the sand at 100 nanometers that was created by the catalyst industry to differentiate nano-mineral particle catalysts from larger mineral particle catalysts. It's relevant to us because it's actually at 100 nanometers and below that you get rapid absorption. And so the lipid nanoparticle that we make is one that your body has enzymes for dealing with throughout it. It can take it apart and use the phospholipids for all kinds of things. It is a natural thing to your body. The word biocompatible, highly biocompatible. Other nano stuff will come onto the market and you'll look in the ingredients, well, how do they do this? And you won't even find anything because they're not often disclosing what it is. There's one that says stearates. Well, magnesium stearate, normal stearic acid can't make nanoparticles, but there is literature around chemically modified ones that can do that. But how are these for us? Are there large toxicity studies on them, safety studies? Are these GRAS generally recognized as safe? No, they're not. Nano we have to be in. Biocompatible we have to be in. That's how we make the particle that goes in and sings the song of our supplement to your body, that interacts with it in a harmonious way, where your body lights up with the song that's brought to it. Remember, we're not breaking down the molecule into little nanomolecules. In all these products, like look at like a classic, like a Charlotte's Web. You've got CBD dissolved, floating in a matrix of MCT oil or sometimes sunflower or olive oil. And we're taking that oil with the CBD in it and breaking it down into tiny droplets and dispersing it in the water. And it's those tiny droplets, those nano droplets, that make their way into the body. So don't say we're nano-sizing the molecule. We're making little nano dispersions that have exceptionally high absorption and exceptionally high biocompatibility. So if you look at a oil, CBD dissolved in oil, imagine taking that oil with the CBD in it and breaking it into 1 million little nano drops. That's what we have. And how does that work for us? Damn good. This was a 10-person crossover study. A 10-person crossover would mean you get 10 people in a room. One day you give them CBD one way. The next day or a day later, you give them CBD a different way. And you pour them up, you put a needle in their vein, and you take blood samples every half hour, or 20 minutes. Depends how you set it up. At time intervals, you take samples, you go measure how much concentration is in the blood, and then you graph that up and you look at its signal through the body. Hey, you're not throwing me off stage yet. Sorry to disrupt the timing, but I gotta finish this. And I'll be quick. All right, so on the bottom in red is our same source of hemp oil with CBD in it, but we dissolved it in sunflower oil, put it in capsules, had them swallow that, and you see after about 50 minutes you start getting some in the blood. It comes up and moves along. Take that same source, put it into a nanoemulsion, take that sublingual, hold that 90 seconds, and the blue line is what you get. Bang, rapid shot up. At 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you're 90% of your peak dose. That's the immediacy. And the total curve, the area under the curve, is 5.33-fold higher than the straight in the oil. Yeah, yours cost more, but you're getting 5.3 times more in the blood, and you're getting it there fast in a beautiful carrier. And there's a big difference. Now, somebody sent something to me, and I just want you to be able to look at studies that come out. Somebody sent an uptake study from, I think, a company called Zillis. Now, if I showed you all the data that went into that previous one, you'll see that everybody's individual. They're varying how much they take up. And you'll also see that it goes up, and then it starts coming down as your body metabolizes it. This is what happens with every compound put into the body. It's called a pharmacokinetic study. The change of the pharma in time. Now you'll see in this one, there's 20 people who do all exactly the same uptake, and it rises up to a peak, and it stays there for hours and hours and hours and never comes down. Now, anybody who does any biochemistry would be like, oh yeah, right. That's not how that works. Goes up and it comes down, and you say, well, what do they measure? Milligrams over time. Milligrams is not a measure of concentration in the blood. It is not a measure of concentration in the urine, in the feces, in the plasma, in the cerebrospinal fluid. It is not how these studies are done. Unless you take the person apart and measure all of it, in every single organ, every single cell, and the urine, and the poop, then you know how many milligrams went in. Otherwise, all you have is a concentration, and you compare it to another one. And they said that they measured this all with HPLC. HPLC sounds big, high pressure liquid chromatography. HPLC is kind of archaic for this, and you would never be able to measure these levels in blood with HPLC.
So, Dr. Shea.
I know this because I'm a PhD. I don't know who that guy is. So, when you see these things, be afraid. Be very afraid.
So what you're saying on this slide is, that's just not truthful.
I emailed the guys who did it. Because they used to be colleagues of mine, and I said, am I missing something here? Crickets.
They didn't even email you back.
No.
It's not very kind.
No. One of them I didn't know was even part of it. I said, did you see this bullshit that somebody just put up? And then somebody told me, no, he's part of that. I'm like, oh. So it goes.
You're unbelievable.